Saw the Sign Podcast.
Good evening, I'm Dallas Lucas, and this is Saw the Sign, the best podcast ever. I swear to you, best podcast. I'm with a guest here, Burskian. Is that right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, Burskian, that's correct.
Burskian, yes. He is a kind-hearted fellow, but don't let that deceive you. He is very serious in his debates. And, it'll be casual debate here. We have a few topics at hand here. We have abortion, our position and whatnot. We have immigration. And then we have political rights, kind of like, hey, should the populace vote? Should we vote? Should we have, all these political parties, or should we have one? That sort of thing. And so, I think it'll be a wild ride. I have some microwave popcorn here, so if I sound like the fat guy, it's whatever. But Burskian, I want you to kind of pick what topic to start out with.
All right, we can start out with abortion.
Abortion, let's go. All right. I am pro nothing. I think women should not really have the right to even think about this and have this discussion, in my opinion. So really, in my society, we wouldn't even have this argument. But no, I think the Jewish elites have wanted the decline of birth rates, and that's why abortion is a thing. So obviously, no, it should be outlawed. It's not natural. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. In a perfect society, for me, it wouldn't even be a choice for a woman to have the choice to even have an abortion, or have
incel supremacy, right?
Political thoughts. Yeah,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I agree. I think now that we kind of debate this, we both agree on the same thing here, so there's really not a lot to debate. Just really kind of discuss a little bit. But I guess to kind of make up for that, let's just kind of discuss what the potential cons, the side effects of this could be, and how we'd fix it. So what are the potential bad side effects do you think would come from this? What do you think?
So are you talking about just making abortion illegal, or what?
For now, yes, and then when we come down to political rights, then we can kind of touch on the broader female civil rights. But for now, I kind of want to touch on what, if any, because I don't think there would be a lot of bad side effects, at least none too big to handle. But do you think there would be any sizable challenge for it?
Yeah, I do. So obviously, abortion is a very subjective view. So it's obviously it's going to be very difficult to get everybody to agree on something, to make a new law or pass something. And obviously you're saying women nowadays are very feminist. They are very pro-abortion, pro-choice. Largely Democrats or even leftists. They're constantly getting more far left. So I think one of the biggest challenges would be getting everybody to agree on what we should, do to make it to where abortion wouldn't be necessary. Because obviously, whenever you're talking about abortion, there are going to be some points that, say, a liberal may have that is somewhat understandable. So I think the hardest part would be finding out how we could make it to where abortion wouldn't even be necessary.
That's true. And to kind of touch on that, I had a debate earlier, a few hours ago, with two communists. Well, one, he was an anarchist-Leninist, and the other one was a religious Leninist. I have no idea. They're adding new political ideologies every day. It's kind of hard to get to kind of keep up with them. But from what I knew, they were kind of advocating for collectivism, socialism, and just the broad in that world of ideology. And you know what? I found myself really agreeing on what they were talking about there. particularly in terms of the economy. I mean, I think, they were saying stuff like, the 1% or whatever who are billionaires and they're, the income, the money is not going back down to the general population. It's just not happening. And so I think with that, I think, really, if I was the all powerful leader, I'd make it where, okay, well, once you become a certain amount, once you have enough money and your net worth is at a certain extent, I think you should be forced to pay a lot more money to kind of help the state. I think and what we agreed on is a kind of a state capitalist society where instead of, because some like China, for example, they operate under a state capitalist society because they want to transition into a socialist communist society. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a gradual sliding into communism. And you know what? I think the opposite. I think what we should do is have a state operated capitalist economy, but just keep it that way. Don't make it more socialist and don't make it more conservative. Just keep it a state-seized economy, so private businesses where they have to kind of work alongside the state to ensure that the state, and so that's what I think, like national socialism, not like Nazism, in the way, but kind of like, national society under a socialist kind of structure, but capitalism reigns supreme. What do you think? Do you agree? Because I do think that billionaires should be, expected to pay more and help and contribute to this to society. Because you gotta agree, most of that money, where's it going? It's just like their end of the life, high score. It's like, okay, where's it going? Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. Yes, I do. So obviously, what you're seeing in China is you just perfectly described what they have going on down there. And in the past couple of years, since they kind of changed their, I guess, opened up more to distributing their products around the world. Like obviously, everything you see in America is made in China, but ever since they did that, they are growing more. I'm pretty sure it's about 9% a year on their GDP. They're growing by 9% every year on their GDP. So yeah, I do think it would be a very good idea to kind of change what we're doing right now, tax the billionaires higher. But the problem with that is the billionaires, a lot of them do have just most of their money is in their assets. So if we could find a way to distribute that across like the citizens, I'm not sure how we could do that. Then yeah, I do think that would be the way, but that would be the main challenge.
Of course. And actually, to kind of, because I'm looking at the rough draft of the script here, and dude, capitalism versus communism is in no way part of what we're doing here. We have abortion, immigration, and political rights. I don't know what we're talking about. I don't even know how we got here.
We kind of switched, didn't we?
I have no
well, we were
idea.
talking about abortion first, right?
Yeah, and then abortion kind of went into like, well, what's the dream society? And also you're talking about abortion. And yeah. So, kind of wrap this up because, I think we can, in a new episode or whatever down the line, we can then talk about this in a more detail. But to wrap it up, I think, I think I'll let you wrap it up. I think you're more educated when it comes to this, economic structure. So what do you think?
Yeah,
I'll give you the rope.
Well, okay, so, I would say this. Okay, let me think of how to word this. Well, what are you asking though? What are we trying to wrap up here?
Like in summary, like what separates China from traditional like communist Marxist ideology?
Okay. Well, in a communist market, obviously it's going to be a lot more closed, so there's not going to be a lot of room to distribute their products across other nations, other countries. But they do actually have a more capitalist approach to the market than they do communism. So it's kind of like a weird mix of the two. So
yeah, I'm sure a lot of you listening can kind of read a bit more Wikipedia articles that kind of tell this a lot better than what we're doing here. But
I'm not really good on this topic.
In a nutshell, what he means is China realized capitalism is the best. Okay, but really capitalism isn't the best. They just, well, they lost, and capitalism kind of won. You know, whether we hate it or like it, capitalism won. And so they're like, well, you know what? Because you got to think, it wouldn't have been smart for them being such, a large country like that and continuing to be stubborn and continue to be communist. They would have starved. They would have, whatever. And it's sad, but it's correct. They kind of said, you know what, fine, whatever, become capitalist, in a way, kind of slowly. But who knows? Who knows what will happen in our lifetime? Maybe China will just kind of stop pretending and LARPing and become capitalist. But I guess we can go back to abortion, and then I will say my definitive opinion on it, and then I'll let you tell yours. I think it's simple. I think this ties into women's rights and their supposed suffrage. I think that, in biology doesn't care about your feelings, okay? And I think that for the longest of time, before the 60s and before, women had their role in society. People say that women were abused, or they were treated unfairly. And I think that's ridiculous. I think that women were deeply respected in their homes and by their children and their husband. I think, yes, there were cases where men would, assault their wife, but you gotta think, well, the reaction back then was disgust. It was like, hey man, don't hit on your wife like that, It was like, hey, what are you doing? That's the term, the wife beater, tank top? That's where that came from back in the day. That they hated guys like that. But anyways, back to abortion, finally. God, I just think this wouldn't even be a topic to discuss. But also, abortion was created solely, really, majority Jewish doctors and Jewish, ideology creators. They pushed it, lobbying for abortion to become this normalized thing, when really, after conception, that is when a life is born, and to take that away would be immoral. But what do you think?
Yeah, I do agree. And whenever you're talking about biology, so what I think about that is, well, I guess I'll just state my overall opinion on it, and then we can go from there. So, I do think, obviously, I'm against abortion, but like I said, whenever we started the conversation, we need to find out a way to make it unnecessary for people to even have an abortion.
That's true.
But if we do make abortion illegal, there's going to be cases where abortion, they'll have black market abortions, which is a lot more dangerous.
Then we'll hang them. We'll hang them. Just kidding.
We'll hang them. We'll lynch them.
Hey, just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Public
Spotify.
Execution.
Just kidding. Hey, whoa.
Oh, okay, yeah, just kidding. Wait a minute.
It's okay.
I'm just kidding. Don't worry.
Continue.
Don't worry, Spotify.
Continue.
But yeah, what I think is funny whenever people try to make the pro-choice argument, like you said, it was a very Jewish thing to do. But also, the person who made Planned Parenthood, her goal was to lower the black population. So I'm pretty sure, if I'm correct, her husband was actually in the KKK, and she was very closely tied to it. And her main goal behind it was just to lower the black population, and it's still working. The majority of the people getting the abortions are black people still, to this day.
If you don't mind, I will send you a thing. I'm sure you've seen it by now, but this is to kind of go on as reference in this debate, really. That is a flyer, and you can fact check it, 100% true. And that kind of goes hand to hand what I'm saying about the Jewish elites and their creation of abortion. And so if you want to look at that, you can. But that goes along with our topic. But I agree. I mean, I don't think we're kind of disagreeing here. I mean, it's, common sense, or it should be. I think, birth decline has already been happening, all right? I think it's like every 11 seconds a child's born in India or something, or it's something along, or 11 kids are born every second. I don't know. But India, look, if you look at the live birth in India, more kids are born there than any other country, all right? And they're already in poverty. They're already in, a bad place. And they're continuing to give to have births. All right, no one's having abortions there because one, they can't afford it, and two, it's not in their culture. And really, it wasn't in our culture for the longest time. And look what happened, all right? You know, they have so much more people in their country, billions, I think, and their culture, they're so culturally intact that they wouldn't even think about abortion. And yet, our country, we're smaller, which should mean easier to manage and easier to stay culturally intact, and yet we have new things all the time. Communism is a Jewish, Russian, Bolshevik, ideology, and yet we have so many communists. Abortion is a immoral and really a satanic thought process, and yet it's all over. Half the country thinks that way. I don't get it, and so you have to realize, yes, there is lobbying. There is, BlackRock, Palantir. They're all responsible for it in many ways in investment. And you know what? Sure, I may get banned for saying this because it's true, and they know it's true. You know, there's a big problem with world Jewry, and it's like, okay, what do you do? Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, what I think is funny and where I agree with you on is this all goes down to the Great Replacement Theory. Whenever you look at Middle East countries, Asian countries, none of them agree with the idea of this like pro-choice ideology, and the only places where it's being pushed is in Europe and America, the largely white countries. But if you go somewhere like India or any country in the Middle East for that matter, they'll publicly execute you for having an abortion, you know? It's so normalized here that it just pretty much proves that the Great Replacement Theory is true, and they're actively trying to do it. The elites are trying to like push this like suicidal ideology onto the young women in the white countries.
Wow, it's based in Christfield, guys. It's true though. It's so true. Look, to be honest with you all, if you're not completely convinced on this whole thing, hey, I get it. Look, I'm a normie. I was red-pilled literally last year in October. So, I'm still learning new things every day. I kid you not. It's not like I'm exaggerating, like I go days without learning. No, every day I learn something. And the more you learn, it's not like a good thing. It's not a good thing to learn more about this because it's really saddening. I'm reading about culture and how centuries, and they predict it'll all be gone. You won't even know what it means to be American anymore. You won't know the great conquerors of Europe. Alexander the Great. You won't know any of these guys. They're actively erasing history and calling it. They call Caesar a dictator, and yes, technically he was, and he created the word. But if you really read like poems and books made in that time, he made Rome good. He made it great. And so that we as a society have really destroyed what it means to be proud of a nation or be proud of culture. Or be proud of race, for that matter. And when we are, we're called racist. We're called so many names, life-ending, career-ending names. Why? Because they recognize, and look, you can look at it two ways. You can either think and know that Jews do all this and they control all this and they have active agendas towards us. So you can agree on that, or you can just agree that yes, objectively. If you love your nation so much and you glorify it so much, it can lead to fascism. And you look at World War II, and if you think that, they were the bad guys, you can see how that can be a bad thing. That's how they defend it. They say, well, we don't need nationality, we don't need patriotism because it leads to fascism. And I think it's just a lot of buzzwords being thrown around here, because you gotta think, don't get me started with Germany and Italy back then. But look, it's so sad. That's the best word. It's the best and definitive word to describe it is sad. All right, history is becoming sad and it no longer like glorious. But that was abortion, I think. Moving on to immigration. I want you to start.
Okay.
If you like.
All right. Let me get my. Well, you can start. Hold on. Let me get my stuff out.
All right. Well, excuse me. All right. Immigration. Well, it's bad. I don't believe in complete, like, zero immigration. But here's my stance on it. I believe in any immigration, or, legal and not illegal. However, you must go through classes. You must go through, you must take tests. You must kind of convert to an American culture, Like, no more inviting Indians over here, or, Pakistanians over here, or anyone in the Middle East for that matter. Why do that when they have zero idea what our culture is? Okay, they have culture where pedophilia is legal, or it's encouraged. They have culture that is actively harming our society for good or for worse, and most of the time it's for worse. And so no, I agree. I think immigration should be hard stop illegally. No more, And legally, sure, yeah, immigration is good, but it should be kind of heavily restricted. In a way like, okay, only a set quota of people can immigrate each year. After that, it's closed. It's closed. So, on January 1st, only, like, say, 1 million people can come in. Alright? After that, hey, no more. And those 1 million people have to really convert, try their best, go to a border crossing school, a U.S. border school of culture, education, and they must learn what a hot dog is. I'm just kidding. But they must learn, like, hey, when was America founded? What is our laws, our liberties, and what is this and what is that? I think it's a necessity. And really, the only test I've seen, the test they give to immigrants to become a citizen, and it's crazy. You're not asking good questions. You're just asking the simple Google questions, and then you're like, okay, well, hey, will you be good? Will you be a hardworking American? It's like, screw that. Anybody can lie on that. Just really, you have to educate them and make them, become an American. So that's my stance on immigration. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Well, my main problem with it is, I'll say this. Yeah, I don't want to be going to get a hot dog and having to read Hindu
That's right.
writing, but the problem is that I don't necessarily think immigration itself is bad, obviously, like you said, but
Yeah.
it gets to a point where it's just overwhelming and it's flooding our markets with low-skilled immigrants,
That's
and what it actually creates is lower wages for the citizens, and I'm pretty sure mass immigration caused a $400 billion loss in wages for immigrants in Europe, or not immigrants, natives in Europe. And what people like to say is it contributes to the GDP, and they wouldn't be wrong about that, but if you really look at the numbers, it's about $1 trillion that they added to the GDP, but that also, like, the places where it went to were immigration, like immigrants and the firms, and meanwhile the natives lost $402 billion. But yeah, I think sometimes it's necessary. Like, for example, the CEO of Nvidia is from Thailand. Elon Musk is from South Africa. But
Elon
I don't
Musk
think we
is
should
the
be.
whitest guy ever, though. So you can't even.
Yeah, he is the
call
whitest
him,
guy. Okay,
you
that's
can't even
true.
call him a South
Yeah, that's
African.
true.
Listen,
Nah, he's white.
actually, how does that make sense? By the way, hold on. If he's an South African, what happened? Was his parents like in Europe or America and thought, you know what, we're going to Africa to live? What in their right mind? How could they do that? They were crazy. Who would go to Africa?
They immigrated there
live?
to make the country great.
That's hey, you know what? Hey, based. New Colony 2.0. Huh? Anyways, no, but I agree. I agree with what you're saying. But I don't think you were done though. So go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so, okay. Well, here's the thing. Not only does it cause societal problems, it also creates economic problems. For
criminal
example,
problems.
the Canadian Yeah, that's true. The criminal problems too, and people like to say that immigrants commit less crimes than the natives, which that just isn't true. If you look at the second generation immigrant stats, it's much higher than the natives, but it also comes with economic problems. For example, the Canadian government says that there have been a 21% increase in the price of houses because of immigration in the bigger cities. And it's like a multitude of different problems that immigration brings. I really don't think there's any benefits to it if we're bringing in so many low-skilled people. And I actually don't even think a million people. I think a million people is even too much. I think we should do 100,000 yearly.
So yeah, so what's the best? I think there should be a per capita, like a math equation. You know, I'm not the best mathematician here, but maybe a million is too much. So half a mil, or maybe a quarter a mil, maybe. Because look, I can agree that there are many immigrants every day that come in and they do know a thing or two, and they do spend all of their life learning about a certain trade or a certain skill. And low key, like, I mean, even me, I'm unemployed. I'm doing nothing. I'm leeching off Uncle Sam, okay? So I'm not doing anything, right? An immigrant from Mexico or an immigrant from Pakistan, you know what? He's doing a lot more than I am. He's doing more than I am. But I also think that this is a cultural problem as well. I think, we have gotten Americans, really, myself included, I'm part of the problem. We've gotten too comfortable of doing no work. And I think this is very, very bad for America. This is very, very bad, and I think that eventually there will be a crisis. There will be where we are depending on so many immigrants doing the work. Look, it's already a stereotype that Mexicans do all the manual labor here. Do you not see how bad that is? Because say one day the Mexicans start hating us a lot more, and they revolt. Who's gonna unclog my toilet? Who's gonna build the houses? Who's gonna do these things that we are too lazy to do? Okay, it's very bad, and it's kind of like it's the reverse opposite of an autocracy. Where we are sufficient. This is the opposite of that. We are dependent on Mexico and the Middle East. Really, the Middle East for Israel, but also for immigrants. And so. Look, man, I mean, you see it. We have lost our ability to, as Americans, take care of our nation, public service, we've lost that. Politicians nowadays I think, honestly, are figureheads. Do you think Trump's doing the work of America? Do you think he's running the country? No! Every now and then, he may pass an executive order, and all that is a glorified memo order that goes to the departments, and they choose either to do it or to not. And then really, for him to do something new, the Congress and the Senate has to pass that. They have to think, okay, well, do we want this? Oh, no, we don't. So anyways, but the main topic here, the main solution, the main whatever, the end of this argument, is that there's a plague, all right? We're infected. It's a cancer, and the cancer is immigration. But I also think it's cultural. Too many Americans just are so lazy and unemployed, myself included. And I think it's just what's going to happen if they all go on strike. You saw the in Italy there was something called the few red years or something. It was the red years where all the socialists went on strike. And it was crazy. All right, all the factories, they were armed and they weren't doing anything. They weren't producing anything. Imagine that, man. Imagine the factories here, and the Mexicans just think, you know what? Hey, we do it all. Hey, amigo. Hey, until we get the money, man. Hey, it's like, okay, well, what's going on? But what do you think? I've been yapping too much.
No, that's all right. But yeah, you have a point. Who's gonna make my tacos?
Exactly.
Like I go to the taco shop. If we do mass deportations, I'm not gonna be able to get a good taco.
That's right.
It's gonna be a white person's taco. But so like you were saying, or like we were saying previously, I think. I even think 500,000 is too many immigrants to come into the country, honestly. I think maybe even below 100,000 because over 6 years, that would be 3 million. So I think even that's too much, honestly. I don't think there's that many skilled immigrants that are even able to come into the country. Like, if you're coming from the Middle East or even Mexico, I don't think you're going to be that skilled. I think we should be importing people from Europe.
In China.
Obviously, they have a lot more. Oh, China too. But
Those Asians know a thing or two about tech.
yeah, they do. True. Yeah, they're always the good doctors too. If I see an Asian doctor, I'm gonna trust them.
See, also to kind of about tech, that's just that is the sad thing about India. India, look, say what you want. They're nasty. They poop everywhere. They have the worst culture. I'm sorry, maybe this is too much for Spotify, but look, India sucks. However, they have the best hackers. They have the best programmers. Do you know every video I have gotten to solve a niche problem on my laptop or whatever? It's been an Indian guy from 10 years ago or 5 years ago. It's been an Indian guy. You know, I can't understand what he's saying, but I follow along and he helps me. Look, those Indians know what they're doing about tech. Okay, moving on.
All right. So what do you want to talk about? Is there a different topic now, or
Yeah,
you just
there
want
is.
to keep going from here?
Political rights. Basically, do we need to have one state party, or should we have more than one? What do you think?
All right. Well, I'll let you start from here, then I'll go from there.
All right. Well, I think it's simple. There should be one party. It is the National Party. And why I think that is because having so many parties, what does it do? It divides us, you know? It divides us because, you know, now you look at your fellow public servants and you look at your fellow citizens, your friends and your family, and you see them as enemies. Do you see, in America, it's very, very a thing, very, very visible. The right versus the left. There's so much hatred. It's like a civil war could happen at any point. I 100% agree. Because people see each other in a bad way, man. And I think, no, to solve that, scrap left versus right, have a national party that is set on just doing good for the nation, doing good for society, and doing good for their people. Because at the end of the day, that's what it means to be a public servant in politics. A politician's job is to save and to help the economy, help the country domestically, foreignly. You know, that's the job. Okay, it's not to be lobbied out. It's not to fight wars domestically. You know, Trump. What does he do all the time? He's fighting the left, or he's fighting his own people. He's fighting Nick Fuentes. He's fighting people that agree with him. And so I think it's just not productive. It's not productive. It's causing too much infighting. And so what's the point? Why? You know? But anyways, what do you think?
Yeah, I do think I agree because once there's more parties, obviously there's going to be fewer competing parties, and it's going to reduce overall political conflict. So then that gives us more room to focus on like the actual problems, like the geopolitical problems, the Iran war. But yeah, overall, I think a long-term, like, yeah. Oh, so sorry, I'm not allowed to cuss on Spotify.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think if there's a one-party system, we can be focusing on like the real problems, and I mean that's pretty much what I would say about it, honestly.
Yeah. No, but I agree. I think, look. First of all, I think we're going to wrap up soon here, because this is the last topic. And so to kind of begin that, I just want to say, like, my beliefs are simple, right? We have, for the longest time, women had their place, their roles in society. Men had their place and their roles. The nation had its own rules and its own roles too, and I think nowadays, at least in this century, we have completely lost that. You know, there's no to be American is like what? You know, what, racist? Huh? Flying the American flag is racist now? Being proud of your nation, of your culture? Online they say, you know, white people have no culture. huh? As you say in British, huh? British English, as you say. Look, we have culture. We have strong patriotism. It's still there, but it's fading away. It is fading away. It's both immigration's fault and world Jewry. The Great Replacement, as you say. We, as Americans, as citizens in this republic, we're losing it. It would be so much more different, and there would be no room for extremism if the culture was fine and our society was fine. But yet, when we bring these problems up, we're labeled anti-Semitic, we're labeled racist, we're labeled all these bad things, and that's what causes extremism. And they know this. They know this, but they have to keep up this facade of, no, these are extremists, anti-Semitic people, racists, and it's like, no, you understand what we mean, but there's too few of us and too many of you. And also, they have a strangle. They're strangling our nation. It's bleeding, it's dying, and it's sad. It is sad. Once again, I will say it's sad.
Yeah. All right. So, wait. When are we wrapping up though?
Just
Or
kind
is this a
of,
side question?
just kind of like, in summary, abortion, immigration, and political rights.
All right. Well, I'll go with just like the one system government or whatever. Yeah, I do think a government should be able to exist, like with stability, security, and like effective leadership. But and I don't think we should turn every political disagreement into like a permanent battle between the two parties, or three or four, however many there are. A one-party system obviously offer consistency long term, instead of like constantly changing direction, or like every election. The government can pursue long-term policies without worrying in the next election. So I guess that's what I would summarize that on.
Yeah. That's nicely put. And I want to thank you for being on here tonight on this show. I really appreciate your time. I think you came across quite well, really. And hey guys, this man right here. Look. When you think based, and when you think Christ built, when you think like, I don't know, edgy, when you think, hey, this guy, he's low-key a blank, he's low-key a blank, he's low-key a blank, that's what you mean. And so this guy, he is like, I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, you know what, look, I had a great time with you. I think this is one of the greats going down in terms of episode-wise. And, yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you for having me on. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
3, 2, 1.